I don't fear AI anymore because it couldn't possibly be any more robotic than the humans who run things now.
Bill Maher wasn't only critical of Gavin Newsom. He lit the fuse, stepped aside, and let it go off. It cannot be categorized as a drought if it happens often. I'm done talking about California's water shortage. In addition, 19,000 acres of woodland burned at the same time that rain returned this year. Furthermore, 72% of the West is experiencing a severe drought. The beautiful girl's summer turns out to be real.
You can't call it a drought if it happens all the time. In a story I'm getting tired of reporting, California is running out of water, and this time just when we started showering again. 19,000 acres of forest have already burned this year, and 72% of the entire West is in severe drought. Turns out hot girl summer is for reals.
As California began its descent into what many saw as a maze of red tape and tone-deaf laws, Maher didn't hold back. He launched a full-scale assault on Newsom, dismantling the ridiculous decisions and inflated regulations he came across one by one. Watch this accident from start to finish. If you like free speech and independent thought, sign up and let's get started.
The median time to get approval to build a house there is 627 days. That's 217 days longer than it took to build the Empire State Building. You need 87 permits, 15 from the Planning Commission, 26 from the Public Utilities Commission and the Fire Department, 19 from building inspectors, 17 from the Public Works, 10 related to public spaces, and 1 from a guy in a t-shirt that says Federal Inspector. It's no wonder that in 2021, San Francisco issued only 2,000 permits for new homes. Sure, there are people living in the streets, but that's because we want to make sure the apartments they don't live in are perfect.
Consider this. There would be a lot of red tape involved in building a house. The paperwork alone is a total mess. According to Maher, it now takes almost 3 times as long to create well-known landmarks in New York City as it did in the past. Thus, a year after the devastating fires in Los Angeles, just a handful of homes had been repaired. According to a recent assessment, most displaced people are still only able to locate temporary housing, whether they are in nearby cities, other regions of California, or even abroad. It seems reasonable that a state with the highest income tax revenue in the nation would react promptly and offer sincere support. Absolutely not. California is adopting a very different strategy.
California is the place that spends money and gets nothing, which is why you may have noticed when the fires broke out, no one escaped by high-speed rail. We have the highest marginal tax rate in America, higher than almost all other states, and soon Greenland. Now, is wokeness the main reason for the fires? Of course not. But it's also not wrong to associate some of the unforced errors our government made with the things normies see as hallmarks of uber-progressive politics. Questionable budget priorities, high taxes that get you nothing, making everything about identity politics, virtue signaling overseas instead of tending to the nuts and bolts at home.
Yes, exactly. Progressive policies that put ideology ahead of results have this effect. California is also a cautionary tale. When politicians are busy checking boxes and enforcing government on every part of life, the necessities are neglected. As we all know, that leads to something. Think about water management. Californians have been warning about increasing droughts and shrinking reservoirs for years. If it had been really important, any leader would have faced it head on. But under Newsom, the problem is consistently ignored in favor of other goals.
We have spent the last 2 decades in perpetual drought here, yet almond farmers in California have doubled in that time. Despite the fact that almond production alone uses more water than all the humans and businesses in San Francisco and Los Angeles combined, even on days when your teenage son spends 2 hours showering. Look at this chart of how much water it takes to grow different crops. Oranges, tomatoes, strawberries all take about 11 gallons to make 1 pound. Almonds, 1,900 gallons. That wasn't a problem back when it rained, but now there simply isn't enough water to go around, and we have to make a painful choice, getting it to the people or getting it in the nuts.
And he's not wrong either. Given that the flames are becoming worse every year, the state of California cannot afford to make such errors. The margin for error has been eliminated. Newsom's call for people to use less water is completely ridiculous and only the beginning. Almond farming uses around 90% of the state's water resources. As a result, While the average person learns lessons, the real crooks continue to run the enterprise. And it doesn't end there. Big businesses also require a lot of resources. They are rarely investigated to the same extent, though.
You know, it's not like California doesn't know how to regulate. Oh, they know. We are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again. California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica, or starting a business, or getting your solar power hooked up.
It seems reasonable that many people think the system is prejudiced. To be honest, they have every reason to. The disparities are clear when big businesses get away with it, but ordinary people can't gain permission to reconstruct their houses. Moreover, this bad management is not brand new.
But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regulations, but somehow that slipped through the cracks? For a state that just loves to be up everybody's ass all the time, water management might be a better place to direct that instinct.
Think about the high-speed rail system that would link San Francisco and Los Angeles. Since 2008, $15.7 billion has been invested. The project is well behind schedule, and costs have increased to a projected $128 billion. Maher's sharp contrast was just right. If you were attempting to chisel Mount Rushmore today, think of California's red tape. He didn't keep anything back. That's all.
But just as an exercise in realizing how far we've regressed as the can-do people, I think we should all try to imagine how it will go down if we tried to sculpt Mount Rushmore out of a mountain today. First, we'd have to make the mountain handicap accessible, so we could hire handicapped people to work on the side of a mountain. Then there'd be a 10-year delay while we studied the effect of construction noise on the mating habits of woodchucks. Then another 10 years to obtain ethically sourced dynamite and find a sculptor who doesn't only work from home. And then another 2 years to apologize for being on Indian land. And finally, after 50 years and a cost that had ballooned to $100 billion, we'd have half a nostril, and it wouldn't be Lincoln. It'd be Che Guevara.
It may appear over the top, but that's the whole point. When rules are implemented solely for aesthetic purposes and secretly trap people in never-ending problems, they become useless. They then turn into barriers. Regulations should protect rather than restrict. The response is simple. Put in place leaders who know that government exists to serve the people, not to obstruct them. This means creating reasonable laws, cutting superfluous bureaucracy, and putting results ahead of appearances. Increased trust results from increased efficiency. Without it, nothing changes. Share your thoughts in a comment.